This is a vehicle that doesn't need an introduction. You'll have immediately recognized it, obviously, right? But because it's my job to tell you what it is, I will then tell you that this is the all-new, highly anticipated, full-sized, well, actually it's a mid-sized, Ford Bronco. Not the Bronco Sport, the real body-on-frame Bronco. And other than the fact that I am completely blinded by the sun, I have to say that right now I'm feeling really, really good with this vehicle. It's been about 5.5 days since I picked it up, and it's just been all smiles, all good times. And it's kind of been a real uplifting thing. I have to admit it. I mean, we're still in this pandemic crap. We don't know if there's a next wave coming. Will we be able to spend the holidays with our family and friends and all that? And it's just, it hasn't necessarily really mattered this week, because every time I have the opportunity to get behind the wheel of this Ford Bronco, not just any Bronco, mind you, I'll tell you a little bit more about that in a few moments, but it's just been all good. I mean, the attention this truck gets, the smiles that it gets as I drive by, it's just like it really is kind of a ray of sunlight in these not dark times, but in the automotive business right now with chip shortages, supply issues and all that. Anyhow, I am loving this truck. There are only a handful of issues that I find with the Bronco, and they are essentially inconsequential, but I will point them out, obviously, because again, this is my job. This is what I'm supposed to do. But look, the easy bottom line, and I do this way more often than I really need to, is that, well, if you want a Bronco, you're gonna get a Bronco. You might consider a Wrangler. You probably know more about the Wrangler than the Bronco. So that's, again, my job. I'm going to tell you more about this Bronco right now. Now, even if you're not a fan of the original Ford Broncos, I guess, sold between 1965 and 1996, the first 5 generations of the truck, well, there's no mistaking what this is. I mean, Ford designers have done a brilliant job of combining, well, dare I say it, elements that made the first compact Bronco kind of cute, and with, I should say, the 4th and 5th generation Broncos, really, really beefy stance and style. Nowhere is it more evident than in the front grille with the circular headlamps, combined with an absolutely wide track. Speaking of track, this particular Bronco looks pretty, well, badass, and there's a simple reason for that, because it's a Wildtrack, which includes the Sasquatch package. So that explains the large 35-inch wheels and tires, as well as a number of other elements. Suppose now is a good time to talk about pricing. Speaking of pricing, my tester, 2021. Pricing, 2022, already available, so I'll give you those numbers. In the US, for the 2-door, $29,300. If you go up to the 4-door, $33,450. That's the start. In Canada, $41,099 for the 2-door, $46,249 for the 4-door. Now, if you go up to the Wildtrack, this version for the 4-door in the US, it's $49,475 and $60,799 in Canada for a 4-door Wildtrack. Look, the base truck has LED headlamps, Sync 4 and 8-inch display, the terrain management system with the GOAT modes and all that, and a 7-speed manual transmission. Yes, my friends. And what's really great about the way Ford's packaged the Bronco is that you can take one of those base models and equip it, fit it with all kinds of off-roading features and good stuff. My tester here has only a handful of options, which is always fun to have, as opposed to having a fully decked out truck. It does have the front bumper with the push bar, depends on who you ask, which is, I think, just $1,080 just for that bumper, but well worth it if you ask me. It's got the leather and the leather interior, as well as the Luxe package, which adds a heated steering wheel, adaptive cruise control, navigation, for a grand total of $70,000. Now, when I found out that this SUV was 70 grand, the first thing that came to my mind was, in Canada, a Land Rover Defender 110, the base model, is about $66,000. I might come back to that. I don't know. Well, it's just a thought that crossed my mind. Now, obviously, with the Wildtrack, you get the Bilstein dampers. You get a whole bunch of other stuff. I don't know if you can see it, but it doesn't really matter. I'm not having that much luck with Ford products recently. Now, this one has been, some of that dirt under there is me, because I did take it off-roading. But it's been kind of, it's had a semi-hard life already. No, I promise you, I did not do that to it. Now, let's complete the tour. Here's one comment. The mounted spare is fantastic. A number of comments, I guess. I mean, there aren't that many options for the rear view camera, but the first time I went off-roading, in the first 15 seconds, I couldn't see anything out of there. Designed for off-roading, I guess, right? Here's another thing. It's really weird. Like, the damper for the tailgate is extremely aggressive. So if you're not careful and you have your kid and you don't push it far enough, it's actually going to bounce right back towards you. Almost hit my kid. And there we go. All right, so Ford says this is about 36 cubic feet, about 1,000 liters worth of trunk space. I'm thinking 1,000 liters from here to here, but let's just say if we bring it down to there, maybe 600 liters worth of trunk space. Either way, I mean, it's very accessible, it's wide, it's huge, it's there. There it is. I do love this two-piece tailgate. It's very cool. Just got to remember to put the top part down first. I'm using it as the family vehicle for the week, so I did quickly discover that, interestingly, despite the size of this thing, it's big, right? It's a mid-size. Interior space for passengers in the back for kids is actually not that much greater than in a Bronco Sport. I mean, everyone was really snug in the Bronco Sport, and in the big Bronco, almost as snug. Something to think about, I suppose, if you're going to use it as a family vehicle and you have baby seats. Here is where things kind of not fall apart, because there's nothing to fall apart, but this is where I kind of take offense with the pricing and design efforts and the materials. I mean, Ford has a hard time doing nice interiors unless you're really stepping up, like in Lincoln products. There's nothing inherently wrong with the door panels, right? But you can see how they're scuffing easily, especially when you consider you're going up and down every time. There's some nice touches because you can remove the door, so it actually tells you where to lift it from when you're pulling it off the hinges. Oh, here's a neat feature too. The mirrors are mounted to, well, I suppose the bottom of the windshield frame. So when you do take the doors off, you have your mirrors all the time. And don't worry about it. The first time I opened the door, I thought I had smashed the mirror. Kind of funny. But yeah, so I don't know. Early production, maybe the plastics seem a little bit cheap. And it doesn't get much better on the inside. And the same thing with these available or optional leather finish seats. I mean, it's supple enough, but there's nothing to them. But climbing aboard is a nice adventure. Oh, love these handles. See, there are little touches. Look at this blue line. I mean, it's not necessary, but it looks great. It says Bronco in it. The exposed hex bolts. I love that. But the thing is, when you get aboard, I'm going to start it up. I don't know. I don't want to say that the Wrangler has a nicer interior, but the Wrangler has kind of a nicer interior. There's more going on. There's like more attention to the way the thing was crafted and designed on the inside. But it doesn't have a 12-inch display like this, which can be split into various different settings and screens and all that. While I'm here, and it's Sync 4, so it works fantastically. So we might as well do that right now. See your GOAT modes, so as you go through the wheel, and they appear over here. So you have just everything, right? You have the Eco, Sport, and then there's slippery and mud ruts, sand, it's probably the coolest one. Oops, yeah, didn't think about that. Doesn't matter. I gotta rotate back the other way. Anyhow, those are all your GOAT modes. You just have to remember that you have them. obviously when the camera in the back is cleaned off, then the visibility is pretty good. As you did see here, it does have a fairly large digital display with an analog speedo. I don't know. It has to be rugged, utilitarian. I get that. I absolutely get that. But it's, I don't know. All the effort and the design budget went on the outside, I suppose. Visibility, well, obviously, you're sitting way up, and the windshield is almost completely upright, so you can see quite well until you get over here. But because you're so high, you can actually see down when you're making that left-hand turn. What else can I say about the interior? Yeah, I'm disappointed in how, my goodness, my hands are dry. Oh, here are your locking diffs. That's always important. No, I don't need it right now. Sorry. And here are your auxiliary switches, which, again, are kind of, I don't know. It's cool to have, but it's like they said, you know what? We'll make a big deal out of it, but it's not. Oh, by the way, with the hardtop, which is included with the model, it's actually fairly easy to remove them, but I won't because it's cold outside and it's been raining for a few days, so I don't want to be the guy to forget that. There isn't much else to say, so let's explore the... Oh, yeah, there is one final thing to say. The driving position is incredible. Kind of the vista you have before you when you're driving, I don't know. It feels special, and you gotta love the handles on each end of the fenders and the hood. Anyhow, that's it. Let's go. What I was just trying to say about the vista ahead of me, or ahead of the driver, is that everything seems so commanding and vast, as though you own all this space. It's pretty impressive and very special at first. You don't get this impression or this point of view in a Wrangler, for example, obviously its main competitor, because of the way the hood is shaped on the Jeep. The first thing that you'll notice, obviously, if you have a Wildtrack, is that, well, the ride quality is actually pretty damn good, considering what it is you're driving. Now, all those noises have to do, I almost forgot to say, also with the fact that because this Bronco has been slightly abused, portions of the rubber seals around the roof, and I think one tie down in the back, have been either lost, torn off, or something like that. So it's actually extremely noisy in here. So the good news is that a real Bronco in good shape is going to be a lot quieter than this. Okay, so I kind of digress there. But on the point of noise, I mean, the 35-inch tires are extremely noisy, but it's not even a price to pay when you consider the capability and the abilities that are given to this truck thanks to these tires. I did go off-roading earlier this week when it was about 10 degrees Celsius warmer, and it was quite muddy, and some of the areas where I went through were very deep. But I mean, like with a Wrangler Rubicon, I mean, even in 4-high and maybe one lock to differential, when it gets really muddy and murky, I mean, the Bronco will handle absolutely everything you throw at it on an off-road adventure. Is it better than a Rubicon or a Wrangler, I should say? I don't know. I didn't go that far in testing it, although I wish I had, but that's just not possible, or wasn't, I should say. But what I was getting at just before is how nice the ride quality actually is. Now, the massive sidewalls on the 17-inch, well, center portion of the tire The massive sidewalls of these 35-inch tires are just, obviously, they give you a fair amount of flexibility and dampening on their own. But when you step into the Sasquatch and the Wildtrack, you get the Bilstein dampers, which are also part of a high-performance off-road stability suspension system. Those are a lot of words to say that the suspension is essentially smart and figures out what's going on with the amount of wheel travel and settles the vehicle as you're going over, say, dunes, right? In your sand mode or Baja mode, which is probably the better one. But on the road, I mean, you do feel the lean, which is kind of interesting. And when you take off relatively abruptly, the truck doesn't, dip backwards and take off. It actually kind of leaps forward because the suspension keeps the truck stable and flat. It's actually a lot of fun to experience and feel. Taking off is one thing you will absolutely do. That noise is my tripod, which I forgot back there and is loose in the boot. Is takeoff, and that's because, well, the base truck has a 2.3 liter EcoBoost 4-cylinder engine, which is still good for, I think it's like 270 horsepower, 310 pound-feet of torque. But see, that'll be more than enough than, say, a 2-door base. But as you get closer to this model, with the 35s and the 4-doors and all the power equipment you get with this, you're looking at 5,000 to 5,200 pounds in weight, which is easily managed by the 2.7 liter twin turbocharged EcoBoost V6, which puts out a still fairly impressive 330 horsepower and 415 pound-feet of torque. And thanks to the 10-speed automatic transmission, I mean, just rolling onto the throttle. Whoops. A lot of things just moved in the truck as I did that. But this thing is surprisingly quick. And the 10-speed automatic transmission is just, well, the upsides, in a way, is that it always keeps you in the power band when you're taking off, or even when you're off-roading, to give you maximum torque being sent, or being put to good use, I should say. But even so, even with 10 forward gears working for you, this thing is catastrophically bad on fuel. I mean, I did the off-roading, I did the highway driving, and I've done the city driving, and no matter what I do, I'm averaging 15 liters per 100 kilometers. And I suspect that if you drive a little bit more in the city or do more off-roading, that it's going to get worse. I mean, Ford actually rates it at 14 liters per 100 kilometers in combined driving. I think it's like 13.9 highway and 14 city, or vice versa. These are the official ratings. So you can't be surprised to find out that this thing consumes as much fuel as it does. But like I said at the very onset, I mean, and steering is fine. It's actually not that bad considering the knobbiness of the tires. Brakes feel quite good as well. Just maybe a final word on the ride quality. It's not quite Multimatic smooth as far as the drive quality or the ride quality is concerned, but it's still really, really damn good. These Bilstein dampers they just work incredible magic. I forgot what I was going to say before. The point is, the bottom line is that the Bronco has been all smiles all week. And I can't imagine, my goodness, it's moving around a lot. I can't imagine anyone ever getting bored with one of these. I can see myself, if I was to spend especially $70,000 in my as-tested vehicle, getting a little annoyed with some of the plastics and the trim and all of that. Especially if my neighbor shows up, in his Defender, even an $80,000 Defender X-Dynamic, 10 grand more than this, is going to be about 95% as capable off-roading as this. Maybe 90. Let's give it 90. But has such a beautiful interior. I know it's a different category of vehicle. I should be comparing it more to the Wrangler. Here comes the rambling. I think what I like the most about the Bronco is that it's kind of like a Hummer H2 that had a baby with a Wrangler, in the sense that it's wide but it's not big. It's beefy and imposing but not intimidating. And it's just good fun. I mean, the problem with the Bronco is that even if you go for an Outer Banks or something like that, you're going to feel like you're getting only part of the Bronco experience, especially when you have, you know, any trim that you can put the Sasquatch package on is the trim you want to get, or just go all out and get the Wildtrack, and that's when it gets expensive, especially if there are dealer markups involved, market adjustments. That's it. I mean, the Bronco, you want a Bronco, get a Bronco. There's no two ways about it. You want a Wrangler because you have Jeep tattooed on your heart. This just won't cut the mustard, sorry. Yeah, that's it. I'm done. That's it.